A major transport company involved in a fiery tanker crash that left 2 people dead in Sydney last week has had 71 of its trucks grounded with serious defects. Authorities are considering expanding their investigations into the safety of other freight companies that carry dangerous goods around the country amid serious questions about the adequacy of truck safety checks. It could possibly disrupt fuel supplies up and down the east coast of Australia, as Greg Hoy reports.
At 4 p.m. last Tuesday, police arrived at the fiery accident scene near Sydney's northern beaches. A petrol tanker had lost control, smashed into 4 cars and exploded into a fireball. Several cars were incinerated, 2 people died and 5 others were hospitalised, including the tanker driver. Those killed were 73-year-old Peter Wen and his 71-year-old friend from Western Australia. Mr Wen's car was engulfed in flames. Bystanders helped pull the men's wives from the fire, but were forced back by the intense heat before they could reach the elderly men. In the mop-up, police found a mechanical defect in the fuel tanker may have been at fault. The truck was owned by Victorian-based Cootes Transport. Concern about Cootes trucks quickly escalated, triggering inspections in 4 states. The audit is ongoing and the results are frightening.
There's around 170 defects we've actually issued on those vehicles, so it is a significant number. Many of those are minor. There are, however, 71 vehicles that have been grounded and need significant work on them before they can get a roadworthy and be back on the road again.
With another 174 defects issued in New South Wales, the results have set off alarm bells amongst unions and motoring groups like the Australian Automobile Association.
If one incident can lead to this sort of disruption throughout the supply chain, then I think it really points to the fact that safety standards are not being maintained, that there isn't adequate oversight.
The company that owns Cootes, Cootes Transport, wouldn't be interviewed, but repercussions from this accident have left the entire Australian trucking industry on the defensive.
I'd like to reassure the travelling public and the public at large that the vast majority of operators across Australia who cart fuel in tankers do so safely. They have an enviable record of safety right across the country, and that's something that I think people should take comfort in.
The fatal crash rate has long been a concern within the trucking industry. As a result, TruckSafe is the industry's premier safety accreditation program. To comply, companies must agree to have their maintenance standards independently audited. Cootes Transport, however, did not comply with TruckSafe or its independent maintenance requirement. This has long been an issue within the trucking industry.
It appears that there is an issue with the one company, and that's being dealt with by the appropriate authorities. But those other organisations and operators, big and small, that cart fuel to not only the big city centres but also to regional, rural and remote Australia, do so in the vast majority in a very safe manner.
Cootes Transport claims it has complied with national regulations, including voluntary audits. So why then has it taken a fatal accident for so many defects to be exposed in just one trucking company? And what sort of defects are we talking there?
These defects range from oil leaks, fuel leaks, issues with the suspension, issues with the chassis as well.
Why haven't these sort of faults been picked up or defects been picked up at truck inspection sites around the country?
Look, we do pick up numbers of these faults and we do require the companies to repair them. So it is something that we're always doing. As I said, we are conducting roadside inspections all through the year, and we do many of those, and so they do get picked up and the companies are required to repair them.
But this does appear to be a large number of defects that have escaped your notice.
Look, this is disappointing, as I said, that we have found this in this company, and we are now looking at what we might do with some other companies into the future.
There is another problem, it seems, however, amidst concern the grounding of Cootes trucks could disrupt fuel deliveries and supplies on the eastern seaboard. Fuel retailers have been desperately mobilising help from other trucking companies to avert shortages.
Well, look, certainly we would urge against panic buying. We believe that this is a manageable risk. What it highlights is the vulnerabilities that exist in the fuel supply chain around Australia. We know that service stations on average only carry about 3 days' supply. So when an unexpected situation like this occurs, that can very quickly have a knock-on effect that impacts motorists and businesses.
Unions blame increasing pressure on freight companies from fuel retailers trying to reduce their profit margins.
When you've got people squeezing on margins, they squeeze the drivers, they squeeze the trucks, and in many circumstances we see fatalities and serious injuries. And this is an industry-wide problem.
Fuel retailers deny this and say safety standards remain the responsibility of trucking companies themselves and the state authorities that should supervise them.
I think that's up for the road agencies to answer. They'll have a thorough investigation into the company, and so they should. We support road agencies across Australia who have on-road enforcement.
As regulators step up investigations, Cootes' future accreditation remains under a cloud, just as its parent company was preparing to float itself on the stock exchange. Whatever the implications for fuel supplies of the investigation's findings, they will be of little consolation to the families of those who lost their lives in last week's accident.
There's been certainly a very tragic set of circumstances here where people have lost their lives. It's got to stop there. Lessons have got to be learnt, and quick action has got to be taken to ensure that others in the community are not being placed at risk.
Greg Hoy reporting.